is one of my favourite tours. It's a tour of London's movie location. Specifically where films were shot, but also a little bit about the backstory of movies and cinema in London. Before I do that though, guys, I do just want to get to know you guys a little bit first. So can I just ask, by show of hands, who's been to the Shard before? Hands up. You guys, right in the back, welcome. Welcome back. We'll start with you, man. Did you visit this level last time? Was that a long time ago? Was it recently? Wow, okay, well, we'll pretend it's your first time. Welcome back. And I saw another hand way back. Hello, madam. Did you visit this level last time? Recently, long time ago? Has anyone been recently? Oh, really? When it opened? Yeah, fantastic. So quite a lot has changed since you've been here. Welcome back. All right, then, better question then. How many of you are in the Shard for the very first time? Lovely. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Your first Shard experience is always a memorable one. Now let's make sure it's a good one as well. So let me begin by explaining a little bit about where you all are right now. We are currently on level 72 of the Shard, which means everybody here right now is about 244 meters. That's about 800 feet above the ground right now. Are you all good with heights? Well, a bit late now, I'm afraid. Should have asked you that on the ground floor, but you booked this. What did you expect, right? I hope you all realise that in order to get a view, we do have to bring you all quite high up. You don't see anything on the lower levels. Now, having said that, this is not the top of the Shard. Right now we might be 244 meters, but the Shard does actually go significantly further up than this. Does anyone know the height of the entire building? How tall is the Shard? Oh, very good guess. It's not 306, it's 309.6. 309.6 meters tall. That is about 1,016 feet tall. Now, what does that mean about the Shard in terms of its achievement? Well, not only does that make the Shard the tallest building in London, we're not even just the tallest building in the UK. The Shard, this building we are on right now, is actually the tallest building in all of Western Europe. Yeah. Come on, guys, give me an ooh. Alright. I didn't build it, by the way. Now,
And there's no internet,
don't
though.
get the wrong information here. Please note the word Western in that sentence. We're not the tallest building in all of Europe. It is Western Europe. Although we used to be. So here's the thing, not a lot of people know this, but when the Shard was first built, back in 2012, for a brief period of time, we were the tallest building in all of Europe, right? And then a few years later, someone built another building. Now have a think about this. If the Shard is 1,016 feet tall, how many feet tall do you think this other building is? It is 1,017 feet tall, ladies and gentlemen. It is called the Warsaw, and it's located in Warsaw, in Poland. And its entire existence, this multi-million-pound building, is just to have a laugh at us, basically. So, thanks to this one photo building in Poland, we're no longer able to say tallest building in Europe. We have to say tallest building in Western Europe. But what do you think, guys? Still quite an achievement, yeah? You got a question, guys? Well, here's the thing. We've tried a flagpole, we've tried toilet roll holders as well, with some sticky tape. The rain, the wind just kept knocking them off again. So we're just fine with tallest building in Western Europe. Any other questions, guys? Come and speak to me at the end, because I do need to crack on with the tour. I promised you a little tour of London movie locations, and I intend to deliver on that promise. But first things first, guys, what do we think of that view? Wow. Really good, astonishing. All words I like to hear. And you lucky people, right? I'm not sure if you saw what the weather was like last week, right? It was a bit rainy, a bit drizzly. People were coming here to see a view from the Shard, but there was no view from the Shard. It was more like Cloud City up here. But we've been very lucky with the past couple of days. It's warm, the sun is out, and we have got full visibility right now. And what we're looking at is 40 miles. 40 miles of visible range all around. So, the side I brought you on to begin the tour is the southwest side. And if everyone looks behind me in the distance, you will see an assembly of tall buildings. That right there is a little area called Vauxhall. Vauxhall. And Vauxhall is particularly notorious for being where MI6 is located. Now to find the MI6 building, if you look at Vauxhall, remember it's the tall buildings in the background, and just underneath it, to the right, about 4 o'clock, you'll see a sort of a yellowy cream coloured building, a sort of blocked building like that. Yeah, you've all clocked it. And that right there is the back of the MI6. Notice how I say MI6. So you've got MI6 and MI5. While MI5 does the more sort of localised intelligence stuff, MI6 is where they do the James Bond stuff, the international espionage, and that is no doubt why MI6, the building, features in many of the James Bond films. Perhaps the most iconic scene is in the 2012 James Bond film, Skyfall. Anyone seen it? Yeah, huge movie, that one. In a very iconic scene where M, portrayed by Dame Judi Dench, watches the building get blown up to smithereens from Vauxhall Bridge, which is just to the right of it, but you can't see it because there's buildings just obstructing it. Now, for those fans of that movie, if you see that scene, I want to point out something very quickly. So, on this side, there's a bridge with white spiky bits, and that is Charing Cross Railway Bridge. And if you look behind that bridge, you'll see a building with arches that looks unusually similar to MI6 over there. So that building looks very much like the building that gets blown up in Skyfall. It is not the same building. Very important you know this, ladies and gentlemen. That building over there is Charing Cross Railway Station. But the reason it looks so similar to MI6 is because, well, it was designed by the same bloke. A man called Terry Farrell, who designed both Charing Cross Station over there and the MI6. He based his architecture off of steam engines, and that's why they all look very similar. Now, even though that is not MI6, there is actually an abandoned underground platform at Charing Cross Station where a lot of film and TV is being filmed. So if you ever see a scene involving an underground train, it was most probably filmed over there at Charing Cross. And guess which movie had its underground scene filmed over there? Skyfall, yeah! Alright, so even though that is not MI6, like the building that gets blown up in Skyfall, part of that movie was filmed over there. The scene where Daniel Craig, playing James Bond, chases Raoul Silver through the London Underground, we all remember that? That was filmed almost entirely over there at Charing Cross. But MI6 is over there. Other films, Bond films, MI6 features in, Spectre, of course, The World Is Not Enough, GoldenEye. Now notice how I'm naming quite modern Bond films, right? The reason for that is because MI6 has only been based at that building in Vauxhall since 1994. Prior to that, MI6 was kept largely a secret from the general public. Now, it's since been revealed that MI6 was located in Westminster, in multiple buildings over there. But in the old Bond films, your Roger Moores, your Sean Connerys, your David Nivens for any hardcore Bond fans, you won't really see MI6 being depicted, or at least the outside of it, because it was largely kept a secret from the public in those days. And the MI6 itself, so the Secret Intelligence Service, was founded in 1909. And it was founded by a gentleman called Sir Mansfield Smith Cumming. And the first headquarters was actually to the left of Charing Cross. So I call that the James Bond section over there. So again, remember, just behind the bridge with the white spiky bits, you'll see a big, beautiful white palace. It almost looks like a big Hogwarts. And that right there is a building called Whitehall Court. Today, it is a mixture of offices, restaurants, there's even an ice rink over there. But I really must tell you that the Secret Intelligence Service was founded in that very building in 1909. Now this man, Sir Mansfield Smith Cummings,
Extraordinary man. He famously only had one leg because he lost his other leg in a tragic car accident that also claimed the life of his son. And he famously pushed his leg around that building on a scooter. He pushed his one leg around. He also famously signed his name as a C and in green ink. Now that was for two reasons. Firstly, because his last name was Cummings, but also because he was the chief commanding officer of the Secret Intelligence Service as we now know it. To this day, to this very day, the chief commanding officer of MI6 is still signing as a C and in green ink. And every single chief commanding officer since has done so. And that provided inspiration for M and Q, the characters in the Bond novels and films. So Mansfield Smith Cummings is largely who M was based on in those days. I'm going to get onto non-Bond stuff, guys. Don't worry if you're not a Bond fan. So, going back to Westminster. So obviously we've got the Houses of Parliament over there. One thing I will say to you guys, now working as a tour guide up here, one question I'm quite often being asked is, where is Big Ben? Now generally when people refer to Big Ben, they're referring to the clock tower, right? I'm going to tell you all right now, Big Ben is the name of the bell located inside the tower. So the official name of the clock tower is Queen Elizabeth Tower. Big Ben is the name of the bell inside it. What is the name of the tower?
Queen Elizabeth Tower.
Good. What is the name of the bell?
Big Ben.
Good. Well, lovely. So if you call the tower Big Ben, I will forgive you. Not a problem. Now, obviously, being the home of the UK government and the heart of British politics, a lot of political thrillers will be filmed. I could give you an endless list of political films, biopics of Tony Blair and Boris Johnson. They were all filmed over there. Lots of things. But one of my favourite films was actually filmed there. Has anyone seen the 2002 horror movie, 28 Days Later? A few of you have, right? If you haven't, guys, there's an iconic scene in it where a character called Jim, portrayed by Cillian Murphy, walks around a completely deserted London. Gist of the story, without giving you any spoilers, a big zombie apocalypse happens in the UK, but this man Jim is in a coma when it all happens. He wakes up and all of London is completely empty, and it's an absolutely extraordinary scene because he walks around many locations around the West End. He walks around Piccadilly Circus, around Leicester Square, the Mall, which you can see, which is that very long beige strip of buildings just behind Whitehall Court. But one of the most iconic shots is when he walks across Westminster Bridge, and behind him is the iconic Houses of Parliament. That was a very notorious scene because during filming they of course had to portray it as if there really had been a zombie apocalypse, and so there couldn't be any people around. And remember, this included the buildings. They had to make sure nobody was in the buildings waving at any point. They had to make sure it was completely deserted and nobody was around for miles. The way they did that was they just essentially got up nice and early and went on location before people had woken up. In fact, they filmed that scene so early that the only people they had to worry about were the drunk punters getting home from the night before. Right? That's how early they were. Now, surely, I don't know about you, but surely, if you want anybody portraying mindless, soulless zombies, Drunk Londoners is your best option, isn't it? Oh, brains. Oh, cheesy chips and garlic mayo. Get me to the kebab shop. Perfect, perfect. I've had some wild nights out in my life. I've never woken up and appeared in a blockbuster movie, ever. Not happened once, thankfully. Okay, right, has anyone seen the 1999 rom-com Notting Hill?
Yes.
Few of you? Yeah, you've seen every movie, haven't you? Well, believe it or not, that was actually filmed in a place called Notting Hill. There actually is a Notting Hill for our non-Londoners here. And it's actually in West London. Now, difficult one to point out here. Don't worry if you can't see it. There's no iconic landmarks here. Quick, brief description of where it is. So, behind the London Eye, you'll see a gigantic grassy area with lots of trees. That's Hyde Park and Kensington Gardens. And you'll find Notting Hill vaguely in the sort of top right-hand corner, you'll see a sort of a tube-shaped building, and Notting Hill is located there. Don't worry too much about seeing it from here, guys, but I do urge all of you at some point, if you're visiting London, to go to Notting Hill itself. Because what you will find there is the iconic blue door that was used in the film. The iconic blue painted door is still there. In fact, there's actually a sign right next to it that says, "This was where Notting Hill was filmed." This is the blue door from Notting Hill. Now, a bit of a warning though, if you are going to do that, right, you're going to take a selfie with yourself with the blue door behind you thinking it's absolutely amazing. The problem with that is since the success of Notting Hill, literally, and I mean literally, everybody who lives there has painted their door blue, right? Just in honour of the film, thinking they're being unique and special. You're not. Everyone has done it. In fact, guys, I urge you all to go into Notting Hill and try and find a door that isn't blue. You're not going to find it. If you do, take a selfie. That is now an extraordinary landmark. A door there that isn't painted blue. All right. So, we've got St. Paul's Cathedral down here as well. What I will point out, ladies and gentlemen, notice how striking it is. Have you all seen St. Paul's Cathedral today? Yeah? Very easy to spot. It's the big dome. Can we all see the big dome there? Good. Very easy to point out. The reason it's so easy, guys, is St. Paul's Cathedral is actually one of London's protected historical landmarks, right? They're not allowed to build any big buildings around it because that might obstruct the protected view. So fortunately, I know we're seeing a lot of development in and around the city. There are some protected historical sites, so we're not going to see gigantic skyscrapers all over the place like some people will. And being such a historical protected view, of course you're going to have movies filmed there as well. Mary Poppins, any fans? Quite a classical film. The iconic feeding the bird scene, where Mary Poppins is singing the kids to sleep, and she has a snow globe. And inside that snow globe is a very tiny model of St. Paul's Cathedral. Goes to show you how old it is actually. St. Paul's Cathedral was built in 1666, designed by a man called Sir Christopher Wren after the Great Fire of London actually. And she shakes the snow globe and it cuts. There's a transition to St. Paul's Cathedral itself and the famous lady feeding the birds. And that used to be quite a big London thing decades ago. You'd get a lot of bird feeders, specifically in Trafalgar Square, where Nelson's Common is. It was quite a common thing for people to go there back in the day and feed the birds bread. It's actually not allowed. It's restricted in most areas these days. So you're not going to see many bird feeding. There's just a few people feeding Subway, I suppose, to birds around. But you're not actually going to see any bird feeders much because it's just restricted in most locations. But during Mary Poppins, when that was filmed, it was quite a common thing. And you'd see bird feeders, and that's what inspired the bird feeding scene at St. Paul's. Another scene you'll see St. Paul's Cathedral is Love Actually, another Hugh Grant rom-com, yeah? So, very famous scene that, where Liam Neeson's character is speaking to his stepson about love on this side of the river. So, that scene is filmed just by Blackfriars. So this tall dark chimney is the Tate Modern, and the famous bench where that was filmed is just behind it, by Blackfriars. Now, funny story about filming that scene. So when they filmed it, St. Paul's looked a bit too small for their liking. It was quite small in the background. So what they did was they CGI'd the cathedral to make it appear bigger in the film. Now, I'm quite surprised, considering there were probably hundreds of filming crew out that day, that not one of them came up with the idea of just moving a bit closer to the cathedral. They spent hundreds, thousands of pounds on CGI to just make the cathedral appear bigger when they could have just moved a little bit closer, but they probably had their reasons. Alright, any Harry Potter fans here? Good, there's a few of you. Okay, well you'll recognise that thin silver bridge over there, wouldn't you? That is Millennium Bridge, and that is of course the bridge that is destroyed by the Death Eaters in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Also known as Wobbly Bridge, because when they opened it in the year 2000, it famously wobbled from side to side, had to be closed after being open for a day, and it took 2 years to fix. But Harry Potter fans, you'll know it as the film Destroyed by the Death Eaters. Now, if you are a hardcore Potter fan, go to the right of the cathedral. You'll see a dark brown, a dark reddy brown building, and that is the City of London College, which is where Mr. Daniel Radcliffe himself went to school. Yeah, he studied there. I know, I'm disappointed it wasn't Hogwarts either. He did like algebra or something, not Defense Against the Dark Arts. Okay guys, have we enjoyed the tour? Good, now there are a few more things to show you in terms of movie locations. In order to do that, ladies and gents, we're going to go to the north side. Let's go.
Nice and cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay guys, gather around, bit for me please. Alrighty guys, so another quick Potter thing to mention. On the north side, behind the buildings down there, we have Leadenhall Market. So you can't really see it from here. I do just want to point it out because that is where Diagon Alley was filmed, right? So when Harry Potter is buying his Nimbus 2000, all his magical, it was filmed at Leadenhall Market, just on this side. So the thing about markets like Leadenhall, has anyone been to Borough Market as well? Yeah. So we have all these markets in London, and the reason being is hundreds of years ago, before we had supermarkets, you'd go to markets to buy fruit and vegetables, meat, tobacco, all these things. And then things like Asda and Tesco came along, and they just kind of took over. So you don't really go to markets as much as we did back in the old days. That's why you call them supermarkets. They're literally super versions of markets. Since then, in order to compete with that, markets like Borough Market, Leadenhall have somewhat become more of an attraction rather than the actual place you go to get your food. So you'd kind of have a day out at these markets. You wouldn't do that at Tesco, would you? You don't just go to Tesco as to have a day out there. You go there to buy your shopping. But yeah, that's kind of what they did to compete with the new rise of supermarkets in the mid-20th century. Alrighty, who can tell me the name of this bridge down here behind me? Tower Bridge, good. So Tower Bridge is what is known as a bascule bridge. And a bascule bridge is one that opens up in the middle as so. It does this to let tall ships come in and out whenever they needed to. Because in the old days, East London was the home of the London Docklands, and we'd store goods from around the world on this side of the river, but people still needed to cross the river at the same time. So they decided to build a bridge that would not only let people cross, and also allow boats to come in and out whenever they needed to. And of course, being another iconic landmark, it is featured in many film and TV shows. Who's seen the Spice Girls movie? You, absolutely. Oh, you've seen it, of course you have, sir. Oh, okay. Bit of a questionable film, that's fun. I'm not a fan, I can't say the least. Of course you do. But there's a very iconic scene in it featuring Tower Bridge, where the Spice Girls are driving a Union Jack double-decker bus around the city. They're racing around the city, and they jump over Tower Bridge just as it begins to open. Really cool shot. But did you know it is based on a true story? Not the film, that scene, right? There was a notable incident in 1952 where a bus actually went over Tower Bridge when it was opening. You see, it was a man called Albert Gunter. He was the bus driver of the 78 bus. And one afternoon in 1952, he was driving from the north side and he was about to cross Tower Bridge to get south. At the same point in time, a boat came in from the east, and you see the boats in those days had big masts on it, so it couldn't just go under the bridge. The bridge needed to open to let it pass. What they also used to have was a watchman, and if he rang his bell, it alerted traffic to stop. But you see, the watchman forgot to ring the bell. And by the time Albert realised Tower Bridge was opening, where do you think he was? He was on the bridge. So he had to make a very important decision. And I don't know about you guys, the option I would choose would be reverse. Back out of there, get to safety. No. Instead, he decided to put his foot down on the pedal as fast as he could. The gap got wider and wider until Albert and the bus made it safely across to the other side of Tower Bridge. He jumped it, and what is extraordinary is nobody suffered any injuries. Even more incredible though, Albert kept his job after doing that. Imagine if he did that today. He'd go to prison. Probably get to see, exactly, you'd get sued the company, wouldn't you? In fact, he was actually rewarded. He was given £10 and a day off work. Which again, not much to us, but this was 1952. So it would have been an awful lot of money in those days. Now Albert lived a very happy life after that. Not quite sure what happened to the bus. However, the bus in Spice World, the movie that it's based on, is now located on the Isle of Wight, where you can book it out as an Airbnb. Yeah, I believe you need a maximum of 4 people. You can actually spend a night on the bus that jumped over Tower Bridge in 1997. I mean, I'm not quite sure why you'd want to do it. You'd have to be a hardcore Spice World fan like you to do that. I prefer Travelodge myself, but just so you're aware, it is out there. You can do it. Right, coming up to the end, guys, a few more things to talk about. So over there, guys, we have Canary Wharf. So that's the large assembly of buildings in the distance. Now, remember what I was saying, guys. So East London was home of the London Docklands many, many years ago. And Canary Wharf, fun little fact for you, the name Canary Wharf comes from the Canary Islands. Because that area over there was once a location where we would store fruit and vegetables from the Canary Islands. And that's why it got the name Canary Wharf. Nothing to do with Canary the bird, like most people think. Now, since the dock shut, that area in particular was sort of transformed, and it's since become a financial district. And most of those buildings over there, they weren't even around 20 years ago. That's how new the buildings are over there. So walking around Canary Wharf today is very much like walking around a futuristic city. The perfect futuristic city to be used in Star Wars. Yeah. Absolutely right. So not much of Star Wars has been filmed through London, believe it or not. But there was a scene set on the Death Star in the 2017 film Star Wars Rogue One. And there was a platform on London Canary Wharf Station that was used to represent the Death Star. Alright, very little, cool little, so very short scene, but very unique scene. And for regular commuters of Canary Wharf, you won't be able to unsee it. If you look at Rogue One, you won't see the Death Star, you will see the underground station you get to work each and every day. Now, funny little story about that. When they were filming that scene, a few passengers weren't very happy, right? Canary Wharf was, of course, closed, so people were having to find other commutes to work. And some people caused an uproar. Now these people who caused the uproar and also caused the delay to filming of Star Wars Rogue One were actually on their way to a midnight screening of The Empire Strikes Back themselves. They were even dressed up. They were like in Stormtrooper gear and Chewbacca. They were like hardcore Star Wars fans, completely unaware that they were causing disruption of filming of the next Star Wars movie. They must have been gutted when they found out that they could have been in it. I think what's going to happen now is the next Star Wars movie is going to be filmed. They're going to be on their way to a screening of Rogue One, and they're just going to cause disruption to that. That'll be karma for you, wouldn't it? So guys, I'm coming up to the end now. I've spoken to you all about films that we can see around us. But what about the Shard itself? Because the Shard itself is an iconic London landmark, and it's always being featured in film and TV. It's in No Time to Die, the most recent James Bond movie. It's in Spider-Man, Far From Home. But this year, a film is set to be released starring Daisy Ridley, who portrays Rey in the Star Wars movies. And the film is going to be titled The Cleaner. And it's set almost entirely on the outside of the Shard. Yeah, an entire film set on the outside of the Shard. Now, notice the name of the film. It's called The Cleaner. It's an action thriller. And notice, I say it's set entirely on the outside of the Shard. Now, most of the locations I've talked about today, ladies and gentlemen, are set to represent London in an entirely fictional way, right? There's never been a zombie apocalypse here. MI6 is nothing like you see in the James Bond movies, and unfortunately, none of you are going to get an acceptance letter to Hogwarts anytime soon. But, how do you think we clean the windows of the Shard in real life? Yeah. So we have a designated window cleaning here who literally go to the top of the spire, they abseil down the outside and they clean each of these windows one by one. Now look around you as well. So this is one glass panel. There are in total 11,000 windows on this building, ladies and gentlemen. 11,000 of them, right? And that takes 3 months to clean. So while you're going to see a lot of film and TV being filmed in London, and obviously fictional film and TV, there's a lot more truth to it than you think. Especially if any of you are going to see the film The Cleaner starring Daisy Ridley, which is released later on this year. Just to let you all know, that is actually how we clean the windows here. We've got vacancies available. Fancy climbing down the Shard, give the windows a little clean? We'll chat later, show me your references. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the tour of London movie locations. I hope you enjoyed that and you learned something. One last little thing before you all run off. Guys, if you enjoyed that, the only thing I ask for in return is if at some point you could please all write me a small review. It will only take a few moments, but it does mean a lot to me, alright? So once again, my name is Zia, but you can call me Lil Z, that's L-I-L-Z, that's what people call me, and you can leave Lil Z a review on the survey points. There's one beneath us by the bar on level 69, there's also one by the lifts before you head down, and then there's one in the gift shop on the first floor. If you leave a little smiley face for Little Z and a quick review, don't go overboard, 8 or 9 paragraphs should do it. I'm kidding. Guys, I'll be in the area. Any other questions, come and say hi. But other than that, have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.